introduced in just a short while. Baruch haba, bruchim habayim. Welcome to all of you. And so 552, please give ear to the president of our men's club. Not only has he prepared wonderful words, I understand he brought some props with him today.
All right. Does everybody have a seat? This may be a little while. All right. Shabbat Shalom. Before we begin the reading of this week's parasha, Vayachel, this is where I get to make my own contribution. My research for this introduction began pretty typically for a layman. I read through a handful of commentaries posted online by some learned scholars, but no specific direction really grabbed me. So I sat down one Shabbat evening after dinner to just read it. And 10 minutes later, the thought I came away with was, man, is this thing boring. Now, of course, not everyone would see that as inspiration. And even then, I could have turned away, but, Mark, am I going to let a little thing like fear stop me? No, of course not. Thanks, man. Further disclosure, I was pretty quickly emboldened by a second thought. Jeff?
Nobody I know it.
Who do you know more qualified to talk about boring than me? Thank you. Well cued, guys. All right, exactly. Who am I to question inspiration? Did Archimedes question the bathtub? Did Isaac Newton question the apple? Of course not, because people would have thought they were crazy. I have thought many times these past weeks about something Rabbi Rose says. Vayachel may have chosen me as much as we chose it. With genuine respect and reverence, I ask for a bit of your indulgence and patience. Today's reading, especially when unhinged from Pekudei, almost tests our ability to remain engaged. The power of repetition and reinforcement are all well and good, but 2/3 of this reading, 80 verses, are really just a slightly reshuffled but almost perfectly identical reflection of Terumah, which we read just 3 weeks ago. And when we find ourselves bored, even by sections of the Torah, is that reaction not a natural part of the human condition? Can't that be okay by itself and worth examining? Our Torah is not an action movie, and a portion like this has value. We don't treat portions like unwanted stepchildren, as though someone had stuck 10 minutes in the middle of Die Hard, where Bruce Willis balances his checkbook in the air ducts of the Nakatomi building. In the breadth of Jewish thought and wisdom, there ought to be a lesson or two about boredom, right? Okay, before I continue, do not, bless you, take away that Ed said men's club was boring. In truth, I love this club now more than ever. Behind the handful of activities and events that you might know, there are a couple dozen lesser known but still great things that we do. And behind all of them are an awful lot of minor and not very exciting details. Here's an example. Bet you can't guess what these are. There are about 600 men's club forms collected over the last few years. These are what came to my peculiar little mind as connecting Vayachel to the club. I assure you that these humble forms represent some amazing things. Right here are Ted Fisher Scholarship donations, and this little pile of colored paper has given scores of kids a summer filled with Jewish experiences instead of parked in front of Nickelodeon all day. Actually, the membership forms here contribute to that, plus 10th grade trips to Washington, D.C., Kiddush cups, mezuzot, it goes on and on. And each of these pieces has a boring, mundane origin. A few guys got together to decide what the form ought to say, and a draft was made, and then it was reviewed for typos. And then they have to be mailed. Oh man. Sheets and sheets of labels to peel, and a couple of us standing by the copier and the folding machine. There are always boxes of envelopes waiting to be tucked one inside another so that it's easy for people to send things back. And when the shul got a new postage machine, you should have seen us pushing every single button on the new machine in every order because there was no way we were sealing those by hand. It was classic. Normal people do not get excited over these things. I understand. You just cannot easily find 7 or 8 men fighting for the chance to sacrifice about 90 minutes of free time for a men's club mailing session. Mailing. On the other hand, we have gotten such jobs done with too few guys and had an absolute blast doing it. See, it sounds boring, but you just never know. Maybe it's just good group dynamics. Maybe it's just being goal-oriented. I don't have an answer. So, we will listen to 80 verses of details about building a tabernacle. And if you follow in the Chumash, you can read the English translation and commentary. It's still better than reading most instruction manuals for assembling a playset or something. You can read the Hebrew and maybe have a revelation about how many variations there are in chapter 36 of the words for beams or base or crossbar. Hint, lots of them. That may not sound awesome. Process can be boring. Or maybe it'll seem cooler when it's tied to the result. When it came time to leave Sinai, these freed slaves had built an elaborate vehicle for the specific and impractical purpose of worshiping God, fully prepared to schlep it with them for as long as it was needed. All right, that's enough of that. Wake up. He's done, almost. Final points. Walking this whole thing back a little bit. Like any portion, there is way more going on. Nice things about community in the first chapter we read. And this Betzalel was apparently a heck of a craftsman, if you look at what he helped accomplish out in the middle of nowhere-ish. I simply decided to leave those more accessible themes to future bar and bat mitzvahs and serious-minded rabbis. Absolutely must extend our gratitude to these Torah readers. Every one of them answered our call the same basic way. Whatever you need me to do. If you've never heard that over and over in a single day, you just don't know how wonderful it is. All right, let's get this service moving again. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Reverend.